In South Africa, the average time for a transfer is 3 to 4 months, but this is obviously dependent on the municipality and the type of deal that you're working through. In this module, I'm going to take you through the transfer process and how you go from signing the offer to purchase all the way through to registration. I educate people to reach financial freedom through property through cash flow positive investments, specializing in the low income multi-let residential market. Now, the transfer process can seem overwhelming. There's a lot of steps that you have to go through, but remember, you're not necessarily doing the transfer. You've got a conveyancing attorney who comes in and manages the process for you. You have to obviously play your part and have to sign transfer documents and provide the information relevant for the transfer, but it's actually an attorney who's managing this process. So let's jump into a video where you meet my attorney and she'll explain to you the conveyancer's role in property.
With the transfer process, what happens is we'll receive an offer to purchase from an agent. We peruse the offer to make sure everything's in order. Thereafter, we do a deed search on the property that's being sold to confirm if there's any endorsements or bonds or interdicts over the property. We'll then request FICA from our buyers and our sellers to confirm everything is in order there. Once we receive that, we will draft our transfer documents, prepare or request rates figures from the municipality. We will then file for transfer duty. If there is a bond over the property, we then request cancellation figures from the bond cancellation attorney as well as the title deed, as the bank still holds the original title. With rates clearance figures, those are obviously figures that are required for the seller to pay, and it's figures valid for a period of 3 months. Once those figures are paid, we then get a rates clearance certificate, which is lodged in the deeds office, obviously to show that provision has been made for the rates. Once transfer duty is paid, is only paid on properties over the value of R1 million. Once we pay that to SARS, they will then issue us with a transfer duty receipt. For properties under R1 million, we still file the same documents with SARS, and then we'll get a transfer duty exemption certificate. If the person who's buying the property is buying with a bond, then there will normally be bond attorneys who will attend to the registration of the bond. So once we get the cancellation figures from the cancellation attorneys, we'll then send the bond attorneys our guarantee requirements, which are obviously the monies needed to cancel that bond. The bond attorneys will then issue us with the relevant guarantees. We send that to the cancellation attorneys so that they have their security. If it's a cash deal where we have the full purchase price, that's normally invested in our trust accounts, and then we will issue the cancellation attorneys with the relevant guarantees. Once all of that is in order, then we will arrange simultaneous lodgement with the cancellation attorney and the bond attorney, and then myself being the transferring attorney. And then we lodge in the deeds office, or whichever deeds office it is, wherever the property is located. Once we lodge in the deeds office, registration normally takes place within 7 to 10 days. Once registration takes place, all the proceeds are paid out to the cancellation attorney, to the seller, and whatever else needs to be paid. And thereafter, we send registration letters.
Now, remember, you're not going to be doing this yourself, but it's important that you understand what the conveyancing process is. And remember, your attorney will guide you along the way. So step number 1, you're going to sign an offer to purchase, a sale agreement between the buyer and the seller, and both parties have to sign in order for it to be a legitimate contract. Then number 2, you move into the bond approval. So you take your OTP to the bank, and the bank gives you some quotes and says, yes, we can offer you this loan to value at this interest rate. The attorneys are then instructed once the bond has been applied. Now, you've got 3 types of attorneys: bond attorneys, which work for the bank; transferring attorneys, which is your conveyancer; and cancellation attorneys who cancel the bond at the other bank, wherever that bond is hosted. Now, the attorneys all have to get along and they have to communicate. Your transferring attorney receives the title deed, your bond attorney advises the transferring attorney, and then the cancellation requests the cancellation of the seller's bond. At that point, transfer documents are put together, and both the buyer and the seller have to sign these transfer documents. The transferring attorney then pays the rates and taxes, the levies, and the transfer duty, which is payable to SARS. The bank's attorney then has to provide a guarantee to the transferring attorney that states this amount has been allocated and will be paid. So once the buyer's bond has been approved, we now need to go to the seller's attorney or the seller's bond, where the cancellation needs to occur, and they have to essentially get approval from that bank. Once all the documents have been signed and all the payments have been made, the seller's bond is then cancelled. The last stage is at the deeds office, where an examination of all the documents happens. It's roughly 10 days, and as soon as that has all been approved, we go into registration. Within a couple of days, the property is now in your name and you can celebrate. So as an example, example, let me show you how many emails back and forth me and my attorneys went through in order to transfer a property. We bought a house in Observatory in Cape Town, which we use as student housing. It's a great deal. It's a 5-bedroom house, and we were able to put bunk beds in, and we were able to put in multiple NSFAS students. And it's a really profitable deal. With this specific example, we did go through a delayed transfer. It did take about 9 months to transfer, which is incredibly long, especially when the average is 3 to 4 months. But it's because the seller wasn't really playing ball. And if the seller is not providing the documentation or doing what they need to do, the transferring attorney can't force the sale to go through. So as you can see here from the first email, which was on the 23rd of June, which essentially was the approval of the bond, all the way through to the 14th of December. So that was a 6 months journey from getting the bond approved all the way through to getting registered. And it did take us about 3 months to negotiate terms on the OTP. So in total, it was a 9-month journey, which is a very long time indeed. But this is essentially what will happen is you will get a number of emails from the bank, from the transferring attorney, from the cancellation attorney, from all the different attorneys that are playing their role. You will get emails with certain action items. Sometimes the action will be you as the buyer needing to do something. Sometimes the seller will need to do something. And sometimes it's more just informational, keeping you up to date with what's happening. And lastly, you'll receive an email like this where the property has been registered. This is when you whip out the champagne and you wait for the last few days until the property is registered in your name. So the transfer process can be tedious and time consuming, but remember, you don't have to manage the transfer process. You have a conveyancing attorney who does that, and you just need to play a support role, providing them with the relevant information.
I hope you enjoyed that video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Please go and check out my YouTube membership. You get access to exclusive content. I'll also analyze live deals on your behalf. So go check out my YouTube membership for that and so much more.